recommendation is doing the speed studies to.
It's true. It's true.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's what Supervisor Smith and I have, in meeting with the residents out there and BLM and county officials, this is what we thought would, and believe me, it bothers me as well to have to spend money to mitigate a problem we didn't create. But those are our citizens out there that we have a responsibility to do the best we can to provide a safe neighborhood for them. So I would be supportive of the project, and with the director's comments and concurring with those about the effectiveness of the signs. If they're not, let's put them somewhere where they might be more effective. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. DeShield, in looking at the various components of your report, I think that you've stated some very good issues with respect to solving the problem and the resources of the department. I think that nothing in this action contraindicates the need for the enforceable speed. I think everyone knows that absolutely should happen. I think that the response from the residents that I've heard is that they don't have a problem with that, and they know that how it's probably posted now might even go up, and they understand the concept of enforceability and how it could be studied, could go up. They had acknowledged that they themselves can tend to drive beyond that, so it's picking those high-end drivers and being able to cite them that I think is critical. And South Cal Mountain is this is the only access to the South Cal Mountain, which is the OHV section. There's another access to the north for other recreational activities, but for the OHV component, this is the only access. And as we know, this isn't going to change overnight. They're looking at another access through Lake County, which, if it does go forward, it's going to take years to actually culminate that and make the access actually happen. And I think that BLM is very committed to doing that, and they also see that that's where they would focus their limited resource dollars to develop the other side for all the amenities for OHV activities. So that would make folks wanting to enter through that side and not entering through the Mill Creek side. So hopefully that's part of the long-term plan. And I think absolutely evaluating the effectiveness of the signs, and if there's a better location for them down the line, then absolutely they'd be something that would be owned by the department, and you could move them at a future date if that seemed to be what was called for after you studied the effectiveness.
Okay.
I think the other components, the education by BLM staff, they say that they're on board for that beginning in the spring, for the spring season, trying to educate the OHV drivers. And I think that education can make a difference. And as Supervisor Delbar said, also the deputizing of the BLM staff, so they can cite and do other things, maybe not directly relative to the speed, but they are an enforce arm, and they can be deputized by the sheriff. My understanding is that is going forward. And the OHV community has been very responsive on the paving issue, because, as you know, the county's trying to get money to pave that last strip, which has sedimentation issues, so environmental consequences, as well as just the usage. And the OHV community has already written 2 letters in support of our request to the federal government to get more money. So they have jumped right to it, and I think that the associations are trying to be responsible. So I think through the education of their own members, and as the season moves on, we're going to get their compliance and their willingness to assist. Because I think they understand that it's jeopardizing their recreational activities, the safety of the residents, and not being on good terms with the actual resident community. So I concur with Supervisor Delbar. I think that it's unfortunately, to have to spend limited resources in this way, but it is, in a sense, a match with the BLM money that's already been contributed, and the cost issues are, the largest ones are those the speed notation signs, and those are the ones that are solar operated and can be moved to other locations.
Okay.
So I would support that. So I would, if this was a motion by Supervisor Delbar, I would second.
Supervisor Colfax, before we go to a motion.
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of a problem with this. I think, for one thing, we have the case being made here by Bob Parker staff. We have, and I would agree with his assessment, is it's only $7,000, but we spend more time arguing about 7,000. We would say if it were 70,000, we would automatically approve it because it would have been vetted in greater detail, I think, part of the explanation. To your point about the high-end drivers, we spent a lot of time, not we, but the community spent a lot of time in Anderson Valley trying to get one of these signs into Anderson Valley on the north side of Philo, because there had been a woman hit and a child killed in Philo. Caltrans decided not to put in a crosswalk, but put up the signs, the solar-powered signs. So it became a Saturday night adventure to see who could get the signs up. This almost sounds like I'm making this up, but it's true. It became a Saturday night event to go down there and see who could you hit 90, could you hit 95. And finally one night, a group of 4 young men hit past 90. They also hit a very big oak tree, and all 4 were killed. And the community had to watch the removal of the 4 guys from the vehicle for the next day. And it was traumatic in many ways. My only point being here is it provokes other kinds of behavior, and I think that's the part of it here that bothers me. But that story right there should tell us that maybe we're looking at the wrong mechanism, the wrong technology, if you will, at dealing with this. But beyond that, I am concerned here how when I get a request from somebody in Hopland saying we have people running the stop sign here, and there's no stop sign here in Anderson Valley, the end of the airport road. Well, we need a study. Well, how come you put out the other end of the county this and did that? Or how come we can't get through Faulkner Park now because the road is just about washed away? They're in the middle of Faulkner Park. It's a question of priorities, and I can say that as up till this point. At this particular juncture, and Mr. Parker points it out, there have not been accidents on that stretch. I think part of it we may be responding to is kind of a bit of a peak that somehow or other the feds have come in and done something, and didn't even bother to pay a whole lot of attention. And there's a lot of work they should have done and haven't done. They've done it badly, what they have done. So I would say, and I'm comfortable with saying, let's buy the signs. They don't work, we can use them somewhere else. Well, you know, we don't have that luxury. So I would simply say here that until we get more information on this, put up the signs that you can correct the spelling on, let's with the apostrophe instead of let's without the apostrophe. You'll get a memo on that from the Society for the Proper Use of the Apostrophe members. But the fact of the matter is here is I'm uncomfortable with going and taking this particular item and giving it kind of special status, even though I recognize that it's one of our problems out there. But going up against Bob Parker on this, going up against the alternatives, I would say hold the money until we can do the proper study and find out what we can get in, and put that $7,000 into enforcement if necessary, or put it into road repairs where they might have a greater effect. But at this point, I'm very uncomfortable about hearing from senior staff members who are saying this probably may not be the best allocation of this small amount of money. In fact, it might have the opposite effect as the incident in Anderson Valley hints at. And let's hope it doesn't happen.
There's a little bit of good news there.